Hey, pal, you on?
Hey.
Hey.
Mm-hmm.
All right, pal, let's start. So, hello, everyone. Hi, welcome to the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Conversations from the Diaspora with Love. This is your friend and your sister, Nkiru. And today I have my bestie for the resties. I don't know if I said that right. But
I don't think I've heard that.
my best friend for 15 years now. We can tell you that story at a later date, but we've been friends for a very long time, like since middle school.
Grade.
Yeah,
officially 7th grade, but 6th grade was when she wanted to be a creeper and ask about me and stuff.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, you guys, that will be a separate conversation. It's definitely a funny one, but today we're going to talk about what it means to grow up in an African household. So Gloria and I, we're both the eldest, and we're both girls. So our experiences are going to be drastically, or were and still are to some extent, drastically different from our siblings, especially for Gloria because she's the only girl.
Yeah.
So pal, before we get into like our main discussion for this conversation, what are some of your memories from growing up in an African home? Good or bad?
Okay, let's see. So I will say like you mentioned that I'm the oldest, so let's see, what's the age difference between me and the next sibling? I think it's like 8 years almost. No, maybe like 7 years. And so growing up, I felt like I was always like by myself, like, you know, you're growing up and you're making friends or whatever, but your parents are like, oh no, you're not gonna go to so-and-so's house, we don't know them, blah blah blah. So I was always like playing by myself for the most part, unless it was like with family, you know. But like friends from school, like there was no sleepovers, there was no going to hang out with them for an extended amount of time. Like you could stay at home, watch TV, play with your imaginary friends, and then when your cousins come over, you can hang out with them. But I will say, I mean, obviously there's some good that comes from it, because like, you know, like from like now, I feel like I appreciate my upbringing because, you know, there's certain morals that I'm glad that they've instilled in me. But I mean, I will say, obviously, there's some parts where it's like, okay, y'all are just doing too much. Y'all are too strict. Like, let me just be a kid. But
oh yeah.
So, I feel like I really didn't answer your question because you asked for specific memories. But
no. I mean, you pretty much you covered quite a few things I was going to talk about anyway. So, I've written some examples down. You know, as I told you earlier, and I know you can relate to some of them because, of course, we've discussed them. On different occasions. So one of them I wrote down is the oldest child being blamed or held responsible for everything.
Oh gosh.
Do you have anything to say regarding that?
It's like literally, as the oldest, you're literally, I don't even want to say second parent. You are the parent.
Oh like, yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying that.
It's ridiculous the amount of responsibility that they put on you, and you're literally like 10 years old. Like,
oh my gosh.
I didn't give birth to this kid. Like, yes, I love my siblings and, you know, I want to take care of them. But, like, why am I literally, like, I mean, I'm cooking for them. I am helping them with their homework, literally instructing them on what to do, what's good and bad. Like, and then, of course, when, like, if they're the ones that's getting, like, actually, I want to say they're not even getting scolded. Like, you're getting scolded for something you didn't even do, and you're just sitting there like, okay, like, but this is the time where you're supposed to actually, you know, this is the moment where you can be a parent and like scold the people that are actually responsible for the foolishness. Like, come on, why is it falling back on me? Like, that makes no sense. And then these kids are just getting away with murder.
These kids. So Val, it's funny that you say that because, like, do you feel that because of the way our parents raised us that we are better equipped to be parents in the future?
That's a good question.
Like, because we've technically had an internship at parenting for all these years.
Did.
So, I mean, I think we were in a pretty good place.
I will say, I mean, I don't know, like, if I'll be, like, obviously, like, I think I'll be a good parent, but I feel like we are, like, we have more common sense, and we are more responsible when it comes than our younger siblings.
Okay.
Because
definitely, I would say that.
Because we were set on such a high pedestal and we held a lot of responsibility as being the oldest, like, I feel like we know how to navigate more when it comes to, like, solving like certain problems that we may have in comparison to, like, our siblings. Like, even still now, they ask me for, like, advice all the time, which, like,
okay,
you know,
it's good.
That's a good thing. Like, you know, you're the big sister, like, but it's just like, how do you not know simple things? You know, like, like, I don't even want to get into, like, the examples, but, like, I'm trying to think of what's a good one. Like, they just ask you questions that, like, that they should know. You know what I mean? Like, just simple things, and it's just like, where have we failed you?
I think it's mainly because we, like, you know, as we mentioned, we had the responsibility to kind of always be doing things right at all times. We never really got cut slack.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel like they didn't really have that same chance. Well, I would say for the most part, they grew up, like, they had a childhood, if you want to call it that. Right. But for us, we were adults, like...
I think, like, I want to say we were children up until, like, our siblings were born.
And then that's interesting.
And then after that, that's when I was like, all right, Gloria, you know, you're now in a time in your life where
oh my gosh,
we have given you more siblings, and these are now your children in return. You know, it's time to get rid of these childish things, and it's time to grow up.
Oh my gosh. So, let me go to the next point so we won't, like, stay on this, but we're definitely going to revisit that. So the next one that I wrote is that everyone who is significantly older than you automatically becomes an auntie or an uncle. Was that part of your experience as well?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like for me, I think for you, you know, from what you have talked about before, you know, people that were older than you, you probably referred to them as, like, big brother or big sister.
Oh yeah.
Was there ever this pressure or this expectation to call someone your aunt or uncle? Of course, no relation, but just because they're older, you know.
I think when it comes to, like, do you mean, like, my mom's, like, maybe, like, close friends / like, sisters, quote unquote, and brothers type thing, or, like, people that are about, like, our age and they're just older than us?
Well, okay, like, I think it might be a slightly different in your culture. Oh, and guys, by the way, Gloria is Congolese. I'm Nigerian, as I believe you probably know from my trailer. Mm-hmm. So obviously, Africans, we all have some level of differences, you know, within our respective cultures. But the reason why we're doing this particular conversation is because there are so many striking similarities where it almost seems as if our parents went to the same parenting school. But I guess as far as, like, the auntie and uncle thing, there's this culture of, and I'm going to talk about this in a separate episode, where there's, like, a lot of, like, respect given to our elders. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I think at a certain point in our childhood, at least for me, you know, speaking from my own personal experience, like, you respect your elders so much so to the point that you almost lose your voice in the process. Yeah, like, you know, you don't want to disrespect anyone by any chance, so you kind of go out of your way to be, like, overly respectful, even when people say things or do things that are not respectful to you.
I mean, sorry to, like, kind of sidebar, but it's kind of, like, similar to what you're saying. I think that's, like, also, like, as the oldest, like, being that we have so much respect for our parents, we were never never to be the ones to say, oh no, we don't want to do that, we don't want to help, so and so with their homework, or like, why do we have to always do that? Like, we kind of just did it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know that doesn't have to do anything with like your auntie or uncle situation, but it's kind of going off what you said about how like you kind of have so much respect for your elders that you lose your voice, like.
Yeah.
And
no.
And I feel like at that point, like, we do kind of lose our voice in a sense, like, and then you're also a kid too, so like,
yeah,
what voice do you even have to like stand up for yourself and say, hey mom, like this isn't right? Like, what do we know? They've clearly manipulated us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, talking back in an African home is just not, like, it doesn't happen.
No, not at all.
Like now, like with my mom and I, we kind of go like head to head sometimes, not in a bad way, but like, at the age and stage that I'm at now, I kind of like, the roles kind of reverse, and it's quite beautiful to see. Like now I'm like her mom sometimes. Like not that I tell her what to do, but like, if she's not doing something right, or if she's doing something like in a way that's not really the best, I kind of give her advice and tell her, mom, that's not what you're supposed to do. So I mean, it's interesting, but as far as like the whole
it's
auntie and uncle thing,
though, because like even now, like they depend on us for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's even gone beyond just being like the second parent thing. Like, we're now like helping them navigate with like even simple things like bills, or like the other day my mom needed help finding someone to like fix the lawnmower. Like, you're always like doing some type of errand or like figuring out something for them. Like,
oh yeah,
it's like you're a parent and like a sister in a sense. Like sometimes, like my mom, she calls me this all the time. She calls me big sis all the time, and I'm like, you're okay, cute, but at the same time, like, I am your child. Like, I don't know.
There's no time to be a child in African home, apparently.
You're just an equal. You're an equal, kind of. And you're it's like weird, like they want you to be an equal, but at the same time you have to like respect them and don't you dare cross them. I don't know, it's weird.
I know. It's hard to find a balance sometimes. But just a quick note, because I know offline Gloria was telling me she listened to my previous episode, and she said I sounded sleepy. So guys, just in case you were thinking the same thing, I literally recorded both the trailer and the first episode like around like between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. So if I sounded sleepy, it's because I was trying to, get it done at those early hours.
Yeah, I will say you sound definitely more lively today. I don't know if it's because I brought the spirit from out of you.
No. So, yeah, like I think for me, like it's the whole aunt uncle thing, like it just like, and I think a big reason why that is a big part of our culture, and of course they do it back home, on the continent as well. But I feel like here, because so many of us are removed from like our extended relatives back in our respective home countries, whenever we see someone that is, from our culture that is here, they kind of automatically become an aunt or an uncle to us, because it's like,
yeah. I get what you're trying to say now.
Yeah. But I think sometimes like, I guess kind of going back to the whole thing about losing your voice and like losing your sense of self to an extent, like you see them as like a second like set of parents or whatever the case may be. And it's like, you try to kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to like really explain it. But I think sometimes like they take advantage of the fact that, well, if you're calling me your aunt or your uncle, I'm going to treat you as like a kid. And sometimes like I don't know, they seem to like take that to the head, and it's almost like, me calling you my aunt or me calling you my uncle, you're going to treat me as a child, and that's not, that's not good. But I mean, we can definitely go into that a little bit more later, and like I said, I'll talk about that in a separate episode. But you mentioned something earlier. Sleepovers do not exist in the African parents' vocabulary.
Let me tell you about my one experience with my fake sleepover that wasn't really a sleepover. I can't remember how old I was, but I want to say I was like maybe in second grade. Yeah, it had to be like maybe second grade.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yeah, so one of my friends at school like had like a birthday sleepover thing, and they were doing like outdoor camping, but the camping was like literally in their backyard type thing.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I begged my parents to go, right? And so they let me go, and I stayed the night, but literally like at 5 or 6 a.m. my dad was there ready to pick me up. Like they were
Oh my
just
gosh.
starting to make breakfast for us. I didn't get any breakfast. He literally snatched me from out that tent and we left, man. Let me tell you, that was the saddest ride home. Saddest.
How far did you live from them?
I honestly can't remember, but it was long enough where I remember like sitting in the back seat and being like, this is so upsetting. And I'm so sad that I had to leave my friends. Like, I have no.
But for the fact that you were able to actually sleep over, like, that's surprising to me.
That is so. Yeah, I will say.
I think you and I only slept over each other's places like once each.
Oh my gosh!
And we've been friends all these years.
That was such an ordeal, and it shouldn't have been that way at all. Like, the fact that our parents knew each other, they knew we were best friends, we're both African, like, what more do you want?
Like, so, like, why do you think that is? Like, why do you,
I just honestly feel like Africans don't trust people. Like, they just don't. Like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
My mom don't trust people. I know that for sure.
Like, I mean, I know, like, from our conversations, like, now, like, you know, in the future, like, when I have kids, I really don't think I'm gonna let them, like, sleep over either. Mm-hmm. And it's just because of everything that's going on in today's world. But I feel like the world we grew up in was relatively safe, maybe. Right. Or maybe because we were looking at it from, like, child's eyes. But, you know, with everything that's happening today, like, I can totally see why, you know, if a parent says that today. But back then, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with sleepovers. I think it just depends on the dynamic that you have. Like, as a parent, the dynamic, like the relationship that you have with the child's parent. And, like, knowing how they raise their child and things like that. And, like, it has to happen gradually, right? Like, it's not like your child should come home. It's like, Mom, you know, I made a new friend. Like, can I sleep over? No. Like, there has to be baby steps. Like, maybe, like, there's play dates.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe we're going to a birthday party. Or maybe we're hanging out for maybe 2-3 hours on end with their family to see how, you know, how it is that they navigate, how they treat their kids, things like that. And then we can move forward to, you know, a sleepover. But, like, I don't know, you just have to be careful.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I feel like those are great experiences that you can have with your child. Like, I know this, like, I feel like for me, like, I don't have like a lot of childhood memories besides like birthdays. And obviously, like, you know, birthdays are things that should be celebrated, and it's great, and I'm glad that I got to celebrate them, but there should be more than just that, you know what I mean?
And they're all at your house, pretty much, right?
Oh my gosh, that's so true. They were all at my house.
Oh my gosh.
But then, you know what's so funny though? The whole sleepover thing, like, you can't sleep over anybody's house, but they can come sleep.
They can sleep over yours place. That's funny. No, my mom was funny too, because she didn't really want people at her, you know, at our place either.
Oh, really?
So, like, I mean, it depends. Like, of course, like, you and I, you know, with the level of closeness that we have and had, you know, in our families and whatever.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there were times, like, you know how, like, I would come over your house for, like, you know, the usual hour and 30 minutes that really wasn't an hour and 30 minutes. It was either my mom would be calling me, telling me I need to come home, or, like, your mom would look, he'd be hinting at, like, I need to leave. Like, why can't we just enjoy ourselves?
Yeah, I just don't know why. Like, what's the fear? Like, I don't know.
And all we did was just literally listen to music and, like,
laugh and watch cartoons. Like, just a very simple life.
Right. Like, we weren't out here in these streets being ruthless and
oh my gosh.
We were just simple.
Literally, like. So, okay, the next one is dating or relationships do not happen. But the moment you graduate from college, you'll be asked by every African auntie and uncle when you're getting married. Can you relate?
Oh my gosh, I can definitely relate. But it's funny because, like, Okay, so the whole dating thing definitely isn't. That's not even a thing at all.
Yeah.
At all. At all. And it's like, it sucks because, like, you know, as a teenager, of course, you're going to be mingling with guys and stuff. You should be able to talk to your parents about these things. And of course, we like to hide things, and things come to light, and I just feel like it causes more chaos than it needs to be. But yeah, definitely no dating at all. And then now that, you know, we're graduates and we're getting older, well, yeah, I mean, you're a whole wife, so
Yeah.
at least you're done with the questioning. But
the questioning continues.
Oh,
when
yeah.
are kids? When are kids
good
coming?
point,
I want kids, grandkids.
That's a good point. So yeah, never mind. You're still getting.
They can never
questions.
let you rest in your season. Like, it's
without a
always
doubt.
like something else. Like, something needs to happen at their time.
I honestly think no matter how old we get, like, there's always going to be something, like some type of complaint from our parents. Like, we're never going to grow up in their eyes, like, ever.
Oh my gosh, that's actually funny you say that, because that's actually one of the questions I was going to like touch on briefly. Like, when do you ever fully grow up as an African child? Like, is it possible?
You don't. I mean, even now, like, I'm living with my parents, and like, even something as simple as like going out somewhere, like, you have to be detailed with telling them who you're going with. You need to write out list by list directions, how many miles is each turn, type thing.
No.
Who are you going to be with? How long you're going to be there, and what time you'll be back. I mean, even going out of town is ridiculous. Like, I'm telling you.
See, guys, this is exactly what I was saying earlier. Like, obviously, we all have our different experiences, and they're all unique, but there's way too many similarities. Like, the next question I was going to ask, or the next point I was going to bring up is, convincing your parents that you want to hang out with friends took about 3 to 5 business days. Like, you have to let them know within like a certain time frame. And then the painful part is, like, when the day came, they would like tell you, oh, you didn't tell me on time. Or figure out a way to tell you, no, you can't go, or you can't do whatever it is.
But the thing is, right, that whole 3 to 5 business days thing or whatever, like, I used to do that, and then like when it would come to the actual day, you're right, they would forget, or like somehow have amnesia all of a sudden. So then I forgot. I like bumped that whole 3 to 5 day rule, and I would hit them the day before. It was definitely risky. It was super risky, right? Because you could get an immediate no for the late notice.
Immediate no.
But at the same time, if they do say yes, but also I had to be strategic with when I would do it, right? You either do it like maybe like around company, or when they're relaxed, feeling good. Like,
oh my gosh, no, you did not bring that up.
There's certain time periods you don't want to ask them when they just got home from work.
No, that's a terrible time.
Terrible time. But you gotta be strategic with it. So then when I did get my yes, you know, then there's no way you could tell me you forgot or whatever.
You almost had to write a contract.
But legit.
Oh man, that's funny.
And let there be some type of like penalty fee. Yeah, right. They wouldn't pay it.
Oh my God. Wow, that's actually quite sad. Have you? I don't think I've ever heard you tell me this, and this wasn't really my experience either. But have you ever been threatened to be sent back to your home country, like if you were misbehaving for whatever reason, or being ungrateful or whatever?
No, but my little brothers have. No, dead serious. Like, I don't think I've ever told you this, but like, so Christian and Ezra, like, when they were young, like, they were some ruthless kids, and the fact that they were like close in age too. I mean, they would like
pretty much like twins, right?
Yeah, they're pretty much twins because they're 11 months apart. It was getting to a point where, like, I don't know if my dad was just frustrated or just tired of their behavior.
Yeah.
But my dad literally proposed this very long argument of why we should send them both back to, or ship Christian and Eds in the Congo. Legit. Dead serious.
What were his reasons?
So he was saying how, like, one of his friends, like, did that to, like, a few of his kids, and now they're, like, doctors, engineers, and, you know, they have a better appreciation for their upbringing. You know, their behavior calmed down tremendously, and they're doing well in school. Like, so that was his argument.
Wow.
And he was like, they would, you know, learn great skills and not be so spoiled, blah, 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 blah. But my mom was not having that. She was like, you don't know how I grew up. They're not going to treat my kids right. You don't know who we're sending them off to, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
I think my dad was just tired. He a little bit older, too, so.
Yeah. No, but, like, and now that we're actually talking about that, because I've, like, listened in on other conversations before where people kind of talk about this whole notion of, you know, sending your kids back home. Using that as a threat or some type of punishment, I think that really affected many of our, I guess, thinkings or imaginations as it relates to our home countries. Like, you know, first of all, at that age, like, you know, like at that age, you know, it was already, quote, uncool to be African, whatever that may mean. You know, and now, you know, it's pretty cool, it's pretty hip to be African. You know, we can discuss that later. But it's like telling your kid, oh, I'm going to send you back home. That doesn't paint a good, you know, picture for them. Like, you know, they're going to associate going back home as like, oh my gosh, you know, I should be afraid. I don't want to go back. Like, you know, that's not a good punishment, or that's not a good line to use.
I definitely agree. Because, like, I'm like, it's just funny that you say that, because I never even thought about it like that until now. Like, that's a very interesting point. Like, the fact that you're comparing your home country to a place that's, like, miserable, or some place that's going to teach you a lesson, or some place where you just don't want to be. Which it should definitely be the opposite. Like, we should be embracing it, talking about the good that comes from it, and why we should go back and visit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, exactly. And let me see. And you pretty much kind of mentioned it just now as well. Like when your dad said that when one of his friends or someone sent their kids back home, and now they're like doctors and whatever. So to that point, this whole notion of being compared to other people's kids.
Lord.
Oh my gosh. I think every African child has gone through that, and it's like not a good feeling at all. Because like our parents, they see it as, I don't know if they see it as like a source of encouragement, but it's not really encouraging to compare your child.
They don't know how to encourage nobody.
Oh my god.
They do not know how to encourage nobody.
It's just like, oh, did you see, like, you know, they'll have a conversation with you know, one of their friends, and of course on speakerphone or whatever, you know, they're always loud and yelling. And then, you know, they get off the phone like, did you hear what he said? Did you hear what she said? You know? This your, you know, one kind of, you know, thing they'll say, you know, he just got into medical school, or he just did this, he just did that. And it's like, but I'm also, you know, doing good things in my own way. And it's always like, you're never really enough.
Right. You're never enough, bro.
Like,
which is so terrible.
I know. Like,
and this is coming from people who gave birth to you. Like, if I'm not good enough for my own parents, how do you think I'm going to see myself when I go into the real world?
And like, not to like, and guys, this is definitely a lighthearted conversation. We're not down talking African parents. We love our African parents because, you know, they've done so much for us, and, you know, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's just kind of we're just trying to like highlight some of the things that we went through as children, and like,
they loved us the best way that they could, honestly.
Oh yeah.
They have a way different upbringing than we do. Like, we're very appreciative and grateful for all the sacrifices that they made, but
definitely
there's just some things that could be a little bit different.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And honestly, it made us better people.
But how do you think in some ways, to some extent, and again, of course, again, we all have different experiences, but would you say our upbringing, would you say it affected your self-esteem at all? Like how you viewed yourself, or, you know, like I mentioned earlier, your voice, or, you know, like, you know, when the parents say, oh, you know, this person's doing this, you should be doing that. Like, did that ever kind of affect the way you viewed yourself, or maybe did you ever see yourself as inadequate?
I want to say no, because I feel like I didn't start hearing that until like I was a lot older.
Okay.
Because growing up, like, I was always seen as like, oh, she's well behaved.
Yeah.
She's super smart. Like, she's gonna do great things in life. Like, oh, y'all should look to Gloria to do this. Like, I mean, yes, it's a lot of pressure, but I've gotten, I mean, I hate to brag, but I've gotten a lot of praise.
Okay.
As the oldest child.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I feel like I started to hear that more so towards like into college when I kind of wasn't knowing what I was trying to do with my life or whatever. But like at that point, at that point it did suck to hear that from my parents. And I think and we've gone through like different challenges when it comes to like me choosing like what I want to do for the rest of my life or whatever. But I feel like their commentary didn't hurt me enough to keep going to what like certain goals that I had in mind for myself. So.
Okay. Yeah, because I know, of course, we talk about this all the time. And again...
I will say it was annoying and a little bit discouraging, but I don't think it, ruined my self-esteem or made me feel like I should give up or anything like that.
And, the sad part that I would say, I feel like we kind of became desensitized to a lot of these things.
I was about to say it.
And I know it's, so terrible. And, for any of our listeners who are not part of the diaspora... it's something that you have to kind of grow up in to truly understand it and to some extent appreciate it. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a lot of us, we were, well, like I said, I can only speak for myself. That was annoying. All right, guys, so we apologize. The line got disconnected, so we're just going to get back to where we left off. So, Kyle, I was talking to you about this article I read by Joseph Adamu, entitled Growing Up African. And one thing he said is that African parents don't believe in your craft until the money starts coming in. So what do you think about that?
100%. 100% believe it.
Care to elaborate?
Yeah, so well, I'll speak on myself and then also another example that I know of. So I can't remember her name, but she's Nigerian, but I think she is living in London right now.
Okay.
She's a comedian, and before she went to comedy, she was actually an electrical engineer or something. Basically making big bucks or whatever. And so she told her parents that she wanted to then transition to comedy. And
oh my gosh.
Her parents were just like, this is dumb, this is a waste of your time, you're already, you're doing well for yourself, why would you turn to this? And so they doubted her, and they were like, well, you'll come back to the electrical engineering stuff, don't worry about it. And she she went into competitions and stuff. She would invite her family or tell her family about it. They were like, oh, well, it's great that you got in the competition, but let us know when you actually win type stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it was terrible. But now she's I don't know how big she is, but she had a special on Netflix, which is it actually was really good too. And her mom was actually in the crowd, and she made some joke about her life and how they didn't support her and stuff. And now since she's doing shows and things like that, now her mom is in the crowd cheering her on and things like that. So it's just interesting to see how the table is turned. Initially when she wanted to do this, they weren't on board, and now that she's selling out shows and has specials and things like that, they actually want to be a part of it. So
oh yeah.
And then also for me, but honestly, when I think about it, it's not I was trying to go into a career that wasn't unorthodox. I wasn't going into the arts or anything like that. I was just switching, my aspect of healthcare. But I guess because, switching from going to medical school and now going to PA school, they weren't on board because it's it's not as, I guess it's great of a, I don't even know how to explain it, but they think that the comparison isn't the same. You're lowering your standards, you won't be making as much, you're just going to be working for someone for the rest of your life type deal. But now that I'm in school and I got in, they kind of riding with me now because they getting old, what I'm saying? They're going to be somebody to take care of me.
That is terrible.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what he has to say. I mean, I don't know. And it's like, I don't think they mean it in any harm for them not to support us. They just want us to make sure that, we're financially stable and able to take care of themselves. Like, they'll give you that story. Oh, they didn't come to this country for no reason.
Yeah,
they're not trying to, raise no clowns or painters. Like,
oh my gosh.
But yeah.
No, but you're right though. I mean, most of us do share that particular aspect. Like, our parents came here, most, probably are coming from countries that were having some sort of conflict, during the time that they left.
Mm-hmm.
So they all have their stories, and, when they come here, they bring their families here, they raise their children here.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely want us to have like a better future than they, of course they're living pretty decent lives now.
Yeah.
They've worked hard to get to that point, but of course I think
they always want better for us.
Yeah, I mean that's that's what any good parent wants. They want their children to be better than they are and than they were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
so
I think African parents are on a different level. Like, they don't want you to just be better than who they were. Like, they want you to literally
be the best,
be on the mountaintops type best. Like, they want you to blow They want you to blow everybody out the water.
Oh yeah.
Like, so I guess it's kind of a compliment that they think that we can excel such great things.
I mean, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you weren't in law, if you weren't in medicine, if you weren't an engineer, like anything outside of those three main ones. Is there anything else? Medicine, doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Medicine, yeah, just those three, honestly.
Yeah, like anything outside of that realm was just like completely unacceptable,
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, like I started out, the typical, and nursing too. Nursing is also part of it, you can be a nurse.
Yeah.
So for me, I started out, wanting to do the pre-med route. And then I was like, kind of maybe I gave it like a year, I would say. Like after that first year, I was like, this is not really what I want to do. So I switched to like, what my major ended up being was international studies. And for the longest, and even now, my mom is still kind of like, what exactly is that? And, I'm currently working my master's in global affairs. So it's still kind of like, oh, okay, well, I mean, at this point, she's clearly devoted to this field. So, like, I think for my mom, she's kind of gotten to a point where she's accepted it and she actually likes it.
Mm-hmm.
She likes the fact that I think for our parents, like, like even with you, like I went to PA school and everything, like because they don't really understand it and because they don't really know much about it, there's always going to be some level of like resistance because they, of course, again, I think sometimes it comes back to bragging rights. Like they want to tell their friends, oh yeah, my daughter's she's a lawyer, she's a doctor, she's an engineer. It makes them feel good to be like, oh wow, your daughter is doing, like, they like that praise. So like when they tell their friends, oh, she's doing this, they're like, oh, what is that? Like they don't want to have to explain it because they don't really know what it is themselves. And so it's like a lot of kind of back and forth with them. But I think if you're able to convince yourself, most importantly, and then if you're able to convince them that you can do it, and then if you actually do it, I mean, they have no choice but to be proud of you. And I think at this point that we're like the age that we are in now and like where we are now, I mean, I think they see that they've raised, pretty decent kids,
right.
So Pal, just to kind of like round up a little bit, what are, of course we've kind of like made fun about some of our experiences, but what are some things that you appreciate your parents, most? Like what are some things that you really appreciated about how they raised you? And of course looking at it now as an adult, like what can you say, like, and are you going to take any of that into your own children's upbringing when the time comes?
I will say one thing I appreciate about my parents is that like they're always present. And even
Okay,
though sometimes, like, you know, you don't want to talk to them about certain things, or, you know, maybe they might not give the best advice, but they're always there. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, if, like, I know, like, I feel like when it comes to talking to parents about certain things, you're always, like, hesitant. But, like, the door is always open for you to talk to them. Like I feel like they want what's best for you.
Okay.
And so even though you might have difficult conversations to talk to them about, like, even though they yell at you and stuff, they'll be there and try to help you come up with a solution to whatever your problem is. Or, like, even just being there, like, physically being there, like I think about my parents, like, I've always had, like, a home cooked meal type thing.
Nice.
Like, you know, small
nice.
things like that. Also just like different, like, life lessons and morals that they try to instill in us. I want to make sure that I carry those over to my children. And just like I feel like, even though we always talk about, oh, you know, they just want us to respect them all the time, but honestly, I think we're really respectful people. Like, yeah, like, I feel like out of I feel like a lot, like, all my African friends, I feel like are, like, genuine and just caring and respectful people.
Nice.
You know what I mean? What else? Man, I'm trying to carry some of those cooking skills over too, because let me tell you, golly, I love some African food.
Oh my gosh.
Like, oh my gosh, I love African food so much.
I know, it's amazing.
But there's so many dishes that I need to, like, still learn. I still got, like, some of the basics down, you know. Got the cassava leaves, you know, my beans, different meats and stuff like that. I need to get more into it because there's just so much that I need to have before they leave this earth.
Well, thank goodness for YouTube.
I know, right? But yeah, I'll say that.
Well, okay, I'll say one thing I can definitely say, you know, as far as my parents, like, they definitely did the best that they could with what they had. Mm-hmm. And that's something I could never take away from them. Like, as you mentioned, how, like, the way that we were raised, like, when I kind of look at how we were raised versus some of our peers, you know, not to compare, obviously, but, you know, I definitely appreciate the fact that our parents were, like you said, they were present. They wanted to be involved, and of course sometimes it was, like, overbearing to some extent. Mm-hmm. But always I really do feel business. Like, oh yeah, but I really do feel like they did it because they wanted to protect us. Because, again, I mean, at that time the world, I would say, you know, wasn't as bad as it is now, but they were, you know, they wanted to make sure that we were okay, and, you know, because there's a lot that's going on, and, you know, they wanted to be there. They wanted to be sure that we were doing the right thing, and they wanted to, like, always encourage us. Because it's easy to kind of, like, sit back and not want to do anything, but if you have someone who's always encouraging you and pushing you to be the better, you know, version of yourself, you know, why would you not like that, you know? Yeah. And the other thing I would say too, you know, like, and I think I touched on it earlier, you know, our parents, you know, they came here with, you know, different ways. You know, my dad came here in the late 70s, you know, for school and everything else, and then, you know, eventually we came to the U.S. in the, you know, mid 90s. So it's like, you know, a lot. They definitely go through a lot. They sacrificed a lot, you know, for us to be where we are today. So that's something that I definitely appreciate. You know, so to our African parents, you know, I'm sure most of you probably won't even listen. But in case, you know, your kids who are now adults, you know, share this with you, just want to say thank you so much, because we are who we are because of you. Mm-hmm. And, you know, of course, you did the best you could with, I guess, the way that you were raised and everything. And there's so many things that we're going to take as, you know, as our own children come. So we just want to thank you for that. And
they're amazing. I mean, if you think about all that they had to do, like, all the things that they had to juggle and be a parent, like, the least we could do is be a second parent.
The least we could do.
As the oldest, the least we could do is be a second parent.
But I'm definitely going to invite you on for a part 2 of this conversation to kind of like talk about like the downsides and like what our parents could have done, or well, at this point it's too late because we're already adults. But at least what we can do differently when our kids, come and everything.
Right.
So just to kind of like quickly round up, I just want to quickly give Gloria a little bit of time to talk about what she's doing. And first of all, thank her. Thank you so much for joining this episode.
I could do this. And it's like your first second, because the first one was more like the first second.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like your first one, and I got to be a part of it.
Oh yeah. So I'm so excited. She will be starting PA school. This has been a dream of hers for a while. And for the fact that she's able to actualize it, I'm really excited for her. So just want to give her kudos for that. And do you want to drop your Instagram or anything like that?
Oh yeah. So as you guys all know, hopefully by this point, my name's Gloria. I've been curious
by this point.
Yeah, hopefully by this point you know. But yeah, feel free to follow me on Instagram. My name is Sweet and Glow. It's sweet SWWEET _N_glow GLO. Sweet and Glow. Yep.
All right, guys. So, did you want to say something else? I'm sorry.
Oh, and thanks for having me on the show. Like, I think it's great that that you have this platform and we can have these discussions. And, it's nice to just have like the space where we could talk about like our upbringings and just different things that we've experienced as, African people of the diaspora.
Yes, definitely. So guys, we just want to thank you again. Really appreciate you for listening in. Thank you for joining the conversation. If you would like to support, if you like what we're talking about, please share, please subscribe. And if you would like to contact me, you can reach me via email, buildingafricasfuture@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to contribute anything to the podcast, my cash tag is $Nkiruobi. That is NKIRUOBI. So once again, I just want to thank you all. And until next time, I wish you all the best. I wish you happiness and I wish you love. Until then, take care. Bye.
Bye.